That proves they both evolved from Honda 14 million years ago. No, it's true many animals have a similar four-limb structure. That's a good observation. I agree. They say they must have had a common ancestor. Oh, bad conclusion. Then they'll say, this helps prove we all came from a rock. Well, now you really have got a bad conclusion there. Then they tell the kids, we have evidence from development. Now this one makes me angry. So I'm going to try to stay calm while we talk about this. Is probably one of the most dangerous lies in the textbooks. We'll just calm down now. Okay, I'm ready. This textbook says the similarity between early stages of development of many different animals helped convince Darwin that all forms of life shared common ancestors. Darwin considered this the strongest class of facts in favor of his theory. This was the best evidence Darwin knew of for his theory. The guy who made up this dumb idea is named Ernst Haeckel. Haeckel called this idea we're about to share with you the biogenetic law, which means as animals develop inside the mother, they go through the stages of evolution. All you got to do is memorize the word farm, F-A-R-M, fish, amphibian, reptile, mammal. That's the way they say it happened. The phrase they had for it back then was ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. Wow, what's all that mean? Well, ontogeny is the growth of the baby. It goes through stages, okay? Recapitulates means it reenacts or does over again. Phylogeny is the evolutionary sequence. This Irish textbook says, the presence of fish-like structures in embryos of different species shows these animals have evolved from fish and share the basic pattern of fish development. It's as if the embryo retains a memory of its origins and starts to copy them during its development. That's the ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. Now, the idea that Sigmund Freud relied on was the idea that ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. That is, the development of the individual recapitulates the evolution of the entire species. This is stupid and dangerous. They tell the kids the embryo, the baby growing in the mother, has gills like a fish. Gills? That's a lie. Those are not gill slits. Those little folds of skin you see on the embryo grow into bones in the ear and glands in the throat. They never have anything to do with breathing. My uncle had 5 or 6 chins, and he couldn't breathe through any of them but the top one. Okay? Those are not gill slits. Ernst Haeckel said the turning point in his thinking was when he read Darwin's book in 1860. See, Darwin's book was printed in English in 1859. The next year, it was printed in German, 1860. Haeckel was a German embryology professor. He read the book and said, wow, what a great theory. If only we had some evidence. Well, 9 years later, they still had no evidence, so Haeckel decided to help out. He was going to make some evidence. Haeckel took a drawing of a dog and a human embryo. He was an embryology professor, you know, and he lied. He faked the drawings. He changed them and made them look exactly alike to prove they're related. He just is a bald-faced lie, okay? Haeckel made giant posters of his fake drawings and traveled all over Germany and converted the people to believing in evolution, which led to the next obvious question. Hey, if evolution is true, I wonder which race of humans have evolved the farthest. And guess who the Germans thought it was? Yeah, we'll talk more about that later. Now, on top are Haeckel's fake drawings. Underneath are the actual photographs of these animals. He lied. His own university held a trial and convicted him of fraud. He said at the trial, I should feel utterly condemned were it not that hundreds of the best observers and biologists lie under the same charge. This biogenetic law is as dead as a doornail. It's not true. But it can't be taken out of the textbooks for some reason. It's been proven wrong since 1875, and they still keep it in the books. It's still used in this book, Evolutionary Analysis, college textbook, 1998 edition, used at University West Florida, the exact same chart of Ernst Haeckel. That's only been proven wrong since 1875, okay? I know it takes a while to get textbooks up to date, but that's long enough. I think 130 years, they ought to be able to get it out by now, don't you think? Okay? More about the gill slits in this book here, Icons of Evolution. Darwin's theory, his book came out in 1859. He predicted they would find evidence. 1869, Haeckel faked the drawings. 1875, it was proven wrong. But it's still in textbooks used all over the planet. 2004 textbook, still has it. 2005 textbook, and I pronounced it wrong as Chickasha, not Chickashaw, Chickasha, Oklahoma. I got corrected during the break. Still teaching the baby has gill pouches. Notice, for example, gill pouches, okay? Gill slits on the embryo. They're teaching this in textbooks all over the world. It's only been proven wrong since 1875. Get it out of the book. Tear the page out. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Tear out the page. It's not true. Here's a junior high textbook telling them it has embryo has gill slits. This one says, similarly, humans and fish embryos resemble each other because humans and fish share a common ancestor. These similarities provide evidence that these three animals evolved from a common ancestor, tiny gill slits. Gill slits on the human embryo. Gills of fish. Tiny gill pouches, used in college textbooks. There's a 2004 textbook saying it has evidence of evolution is seen in development of embryos. You can't get a high score on SAT or ACT tests unless you lie and say the baby has gill pouches. It's found on every single test we could find. If you don't believe in evolution, you won't score high to get into college, or at least give the evolution answer. Why would they keep this in the textbooks 130 years after it is proven wrong? There's only one answer I can come up with. I'll tell you in a minute. This one shows a 5 to 6 week embryo, and it says by 7 months the fetus looks from the outside like a tiny normal baby, but it's not. It's not a baby at 7 months. Hello, that's a lie. It's a human at conception. 34% of babies born at 5.5 months will survive. One lady had surgery on her baby before it was born. Cut the mother open, cut the uterus open, and the baby's holding the doctor's finger at 5 months along. Let's see, the angel of the Lord said, behold, thou art with fetus. No, I believe he said you're with child, didn't he? Yeah, it's a child before it's born. Yeah. Scott Peterson is accused of murdering his wife and unborn child. Now, Paul Azan, you hypocrite. Don't you think it's okay to have an abortion, and yet you call it an unborn child? Scott Peterson is found guilty of murdering his wife and son. That's because in California you have to have a double homicide to get the death penalty. So they want it to be a son or a child, but the rest of the time if you want to have an abortion it's okay. Now it's not a child, it's just a fetus. Well, let's get consistent here, folks, okay? Which is it? All right? More about embryology on this one, but why do they keep this in the textbooks? It's very simple. That's the only way to justify abortion. They want you to think it's not human yet. Somebody wants to reduce the population of this planet. And abortion has already done 20% of the entire world's population has been killed by abortion. 1 billion people. Let's see, Hitler killed 6 million, Stalin about 100 million, abortions 1,000 million. That's going to work. We'll cover more on that on video 5. Anna Rosa had her arm chopped off in a botched abortion. She was born anyway. They thought they killed her. Everybody says, oh, that's terrible. What if they would have cut her head off instead? We never would have heard about Anna Rosa. Now, I live in Pensacola. You might have heard of my town. We've had 2 doctors that were doing abortions shot and killed. Several clinics have been blown up or burned down. I did not shoot any doctors, and I did not blow up any clinics, okay? And I don't think Jesus would do it that way. He grew up under Roman control. He didn't go around blowing up tanks and burning down bridges, okay? But when the first doctor got shot, I was preaching in Fort Lauderdale. The next day I flew home, and right in front of me on the airplane were 2 women from NOW, the National Organization for Wild Women. And they were flying up to Pensacola, going to have a big rally and march around town, you know. As we got off the airplane, and I noticed on their shirt it had in huge block letters, choice above all. So, being my mild-mannered self, I said, excuse me, ma'am, what does this mean, choice above all? She said, a woman ought to have a right to choose. I said, choose what? She said, choose to have an abortion. It's her body. I said, well, yes, ma'am. If she wants to abort her body, I suppose that's fine. But it looks to me like she wants to abort somebody else's body. When you consider half of them are male, think about it. It's not her body. I said, by the way, ma'am, I'm kind of curious about this. I have 3 kids. I delivered one of my kids at home. I used to raise hamsters. I taught biology and anatomy. I'm kind of familiar with this process. I said, why does the woman's right to choice stop at birth? Why don't we let the mother choose to kill it after it's born? Be a lot safer and simpler. Hey, why don't we extend abortion rights up until the kid's 2 years old? I know a lot of mothers with a 2-year-old that have thought about it a time or two. I won't ask you to raise your hand, but I know you're out there. I got it. Let's extend abortion rights up until the kid is 18. I bet they'd behave a lot better. Son, one more time and I'm going to abort you. Hey, teacher, where's Johnny today? Oh, he didn't do his homework yesterday, so his mommy aborted him. Hey, grades would skyrocket, wouldn't they? By the way, Peter Singer is pushing for abortion after the baby's born. He's trying to get legislation passed so you can kill the baby up to 28 days after it's born and still call it an abortion. Have you ever noticed the news media calls them pro-choice and they call guys like me anti-abortion? I'm not. They do that anti-abortion because it's a negative sounding term. Pro-choice is such a positive sounding term. How about let's call me pro-life and call them pro-death, and we both get a positive sounding term. That's why I refuse to take the paper. I just can't stand their liberal slant on everything. We get a call once in a while, hey, you want to take the Pensacola News-Journal? I say, no, ma'am, we don't have a parakeet. That's what I tell them. See, the media will ignore the wishes of the majority, and they're going to push their liberal agenda. We'll cover more on that on Part 5. Well, remember when the kids got shot in Colorado? Right away they jumped on the gun control issue. You know, if kids keep getting shot in our schools, maybe it's time to consider some other issues like should we have public schools? Or maybe should we teach them evolution? That's what did the Columbine shooting. Those kids were real strong believers in evolution. They made a videotape before the shooting. One of the boys said, he doesn't deserve the jaw evolution gave him. Look for his jaw, it won't be on his body. They were strong believers in evolution. They did the shooting on Hitler's birthday on purpose. They shot Isaiah Shoals just because he was black. Eric's t-shirt said, natural selection. And then Rosie O'Donnell said, see, we need more gun control. Rosie, Rosie, Rosie. Blaming guns for Columbine is like blaming spoons for Rosie O'Donnell being fat. It's not the spoon's fault. It's not the gun's fault, okay? Maybe certain criminals ought to be publicly executed. Maybe that's time to think that one through one more time. Maybe all law-abiding citizens should be required to carry guns to protect themselves. Suppose every teacher in the public school was required to be armed. Just suppose. How far down the hallway would those kids have gotten? Somebody sent me this button, proudly unarmed. Would you wear this? What does this say to a criminal? Rob me. Isn't that exactly what it says? Of course. The Founding Fathers gave us the Second Amendment so we could keep and bear arms, and it wasn't so we could go duck hunting. The purpose of the Second Amendment was so we could defend ourselves if the government goes bad. Last-ditch defense against an evil government is an armed citizenry. You ever notice a lot of animals that eat grass have horns? Did you know you don't need horns to eat grass? The purpose of the horns is to explain to the lion, stay off my back. I just want to eat the grass, leave me alone. And I think everybody ought to be armed, not so we can hurt anybody, but just so we can explain to people, leave me alone. Don't take my stuff. Don't break into my house. Don't steal my car. Don't come hurt my family. Okay? Thank you. I probably waited too long. I didn't start my kids shooting until they were about 3. I probably should have started about 2, you know. Here's the logic they use to justify abortion.